It's daybreak on Arise News, and it's time for the press preview. First look at what's on the front pages. We start with our sister publication this day. Let's look at what this day say. Challenged by train attack, doubted by a nervous nation, military launches offensive against terrorists. It has about 6 riders there. Kills 34 insurgents linked to bombing incident. Outraged lawmakers say nowhere is safe again in Nigeria once the sack of agencies, once NSS sacked, accused agencies of profiting from insecurity. Doguwa, Nigerians should be allowed to bear arms in self-defense. El Rufai, Amechi's confessions confirm APC's complicity. This statement is coming from PDP, is not mine. Then let's look at just above that headline in orange. Stock market shocks of insecurity worries. Gain 3.02 trillion in quarter one. And then just a little bit above it, court frees former NNPC GMD of money laundering charges. And then on top of the logo, with $537 million, U.S. begins construction of the largest consulate globally here. Well, in Lagos, this is Abuja. I was going to say here in Lagos. Bank of Industry eyes at the top mast. Bank of Industry eyes $10 billion from foreign investors. Disbursed 1.2 trillion in 7 years. We'll leave it there for this day. Let's go on to the next paper.
All righty. Well, we've got the National Star, and of course, the headline also talks and touches on insecurity. Nigeria has not fared better under Buhari, says APC representatives. Well, that's a shame because that's what we've got. To the top of the National Star, the US is to build $537 million consulate in Lagos, which is what we also saw on the front cover of this day. And still talking about bandits, they've adopted a customs officer and his son, along with 8 others in Zaria State.
Let's move on now. Let's check out the Punch newspaper. Terrorists kill 7 soldiers. NAF rains bombs on forests. The military gets approval to deploy Super Tucano DSS police comb forests. There's much more below. Ramadan, look out for new moon Friday. That's according to the NSCIA. And caretaker NINSIM linkage. The federal government threatens enforcement as deadline expires.
All right, let's look at the nation. Fears mount over 136 people on attacked Abuja Kaduna train. It has about 5 riders. They can be contacted, says NRC. Terrorists phone 5 hostages' families. Angry reps pass vote of no confidence in security chiefs. Police defuse IED, that's explosives, at train station. Panic in FCT, Kaduna Abuja Road. And then just at the top mast, we see 300 days rainfall to pound Lagos this year. That's not something that's funny. All right, we'll move on to the next paper.
Okay, we've got the Nigerian Tribune. Insecurity, once again, reps are talking tough. You've got quotes from Honorable Nasiru Ahmed, who says that the Army, Navy, Police, DSS, all of these agencies are accountable to the National Security Advisor. Goes on to say that for all of those agencies, how is it possible that 18-year-old boys are more powerful than them? You can read more of those quotes on page 2. Honorable Al-Hassan Adodogua also says that he thinks Nigerians should be allowed to also take arms. Nigerians must be allowed to do so in defense of their innocent souls. We did hear him say that verbatim earlier on in the show. Still on the topic of insecurity, end Ogun cult killings now. Buhari directs security agencies. There's also a consensus arrangement involving Saraki, Tambuwal and Balau, who meet with IBB. You can read more on that on page 30 and what ramifications they have. But if we look at the picture stories, you've got Anambra State Governor, Professor Chukwuma Charles Soludo, during his visit to assess the level of damage at the council secretariat of Newi Ewi?
Newi.
Newi. We'll practice my Igbo pronunciations after the show.
You have to pay me to teach you.
Thank you. So we've got him making that observation, and also on the bottom there you've got the managing director and CEO of Hairs Insurance, Adaobi Wajuche, as well as Tony Elumulu, who is the chairman of Hairs Insurance, and Miss Nigeria, as well as Hairs Insurance ambassador, all together at the launch of the master plan on Thursday, which seeks, if I remember correctly, which seeks to empower women as it pertains to the insurance space. So that's good happening for them there. And then just to the right there, Lekki Toll Plaza, Lagos government, the LCC, alongside them, have engaged stakeholders to seek understanding. Today is, of course, the 1st of April. And we know that today may well be the day that the Lekki Ikoyi Bridge resumes business.
Okay. The international papers, The Guardian, millions rush to minimize energy bills on eve of bleak Friday.
All right, let's look at the Independent. 5 million households face budget squeeze. And then just above the picture there, the Mariupol evacuation, Bell True reports on hope for the besieged city. All right, we have Emmanuel Bello joining us. Emmanuel, good morning. Glad to have you join us. Let's look at this day. Challenged by a drone attack, darted by an adverse nation, military launches offensive against terrorists. But my concern there is what the PDP is saying. El-Rufai Amechi's confessions confirm APC complicity, says PDP. Now the question is, how would leaders be complicit in wanting their people they lead to die? That's one. And then Doguwa asked that people bear arms. Wouldn't that be anarchy, really?
Good morning. Thank God it's Friday. The way the This Day story, the way it's captioned, it's so powerful. And that almost practically almost sum it all. The feelings, the feeling in the land, the mood in the land. And I'm sure the way most of us are feeling, the frustration, the fears, the fact that this has challenged every known sense of security that we have, both at the level of leadership and, of course, the rest of us who are being led. So that train attack is very, very symbolic of how porous, how open we are, how vulnerable we are to these attacks. And this has been one of the most challenging week for everyone. And if it's if they coined it this way, that's more than you can agree that it's happening. No, I don't think any measure right now is too much, including the suggestion that maybe Nigerians, civilians should bear arms and walk the street. It's of course, it looks very anarchic in nature, but it's not the first time that you've had this kind of call. I remember General Tio Danjuma, former defense minister, saying that, look, people need to defend themselves, that it's come to that. And this call was like, what, 3-4 years ago when he made it, and we didn't even have this kind of situation back then. And he said, look, if he said that you defend yourself, or you get slaughtered like chickens, and it was almost prophetic. It's almost happening now. And so you have these calls. You had members yesterday talking tough, and everyone has something to say that I think everybody will agree. Like the member who said, look, are we saying that 18-year-old boys are better trained, better equipped, better, more professional than soldiers who have been trained abroad? What's all the defense spending? What does it amount to? The trainings, the professionalism, and we see them all over the street. We see these men, practically shoving us off the way with their vehicles and all of that. But what's happening? You have 18-year-old boys, actually holding the nation to ransom. So you can understand the frustration of the House of Arrest member. I think every one of us, even here in the room here, share some of those frustrations and could actually also, to some extent, suggest some of the things they are suggesting. It is that bad.
Understood, Emmanuel. I mean, you'll be well aware that across all of the dailies, especially the Nigerian ones, it's insecurity that's dominated a lot of these front covers. If we look at the Punch, which I'm sure you've seen, of course, they're still talking about Kaduna. They've called it a reign of terror. They've also said that terrorists have killed 7 soldiers, and in response, the Nigerian Air Force has rained bombs on forests. Do you think that this is an adequate response, given that people do feel as though the state of insecurity in Nigeria is continuing to deteriorate and continuing to move from what traditionally was in more remote areas of the north, east, and northwestern parts of the country, seems to be moving southwards?
Yes, Femi, and you know, there are people who have said that this kind of measures are, you know, we don't even know why we're waiting, why people have to wait for orders and all of that, you know, those airstrikes, those jets. There are people who say that, look, that's just the way to go. We're in a state of war already. I don't think any other form of, you know, rules of engagement are needed here. I think an all-out, you know, area attack or whatever we can do at this point, you know, using all sort of technology that we can find and other measures. A lot of those things are there, like, you know, the governor of Kaduna State said yesterday, there's even enough intelligence, you know, to support, you know, winning this war. So what's going on? So these are the kind of things that people ask. There are people who say that, well, look, you have to worry about the collateral damage, the fact that innocent people might be affected. But then this is war. I don't know what other name to call it. And where there's serious leadership and there's serious concern about the lives of people, you cannot allow everyone to be at the mercy of this situation. So everything right now, it's almost something that we should be able to encourage as we're reporting them. If those airstrikes are going to take out the bad guys, why not? And if they have to be done, you know, in a way that, of course, in keeping with all the other rules of war and rules of engagement. But from all indication, you need serious leadership right now. And of course, the political will, and that's what the opposition party keeps saying, that, look, all this is a confirmation that no one is serious about the most important job of leadership, which is securing lives and property. And remember that just early this year, the president boasted that he needs only those 11 months to bring all this crisis to an end. But right now, we're seeing escalations of violence or crisis and of insurgency.
Meanwhile, Emmanuel, the federal government's threatening enforcement of a deadline as it's about to expire, the NIN SIM linkage between the national identity number and your SIM card on your phone. There have been reports of families getting calls from some of the kidnappers. This project, we were told, if you registered your SIM card and connected it to your national identity number, you could be tracked. And if these reports are true, we wonder why we've not been able to track these people.
Yes, and especially if you remember, Kenneth, the story we did on the wake. I mean, after the train, you know, hijack. The stories that we did. That, look, those guys came around with, you know, sophisticated walkie-talkies, and they were using phones, and they were using all of that. So some form of interception could have been possible there, and all the high talk about NIN registration, you know, as a way of dealing with security problems and all of that. At the time, those were said, the Minister Pantami was very positive that this will really, really help in tracking and monitoring and also intercepting some of these communications. That will help, because that will be nipping it in the bud. But we've not been seeing much of that. I mean, how do these people coordinate? How do they talk to each other? Sometimes, from the stories that we had on the train attack, very clearly it was well coordinated. People from the inside talking to people on the outside. And what happened? I mean, at what point did they speak to each other without anybody knowing? And so these are some of the you know, worrying scenario around the crisis of security in the country. Sometimes, outrightly, you have reports of where these bad guys are actually clustering, and you wonder why anybody is not doing anything about it. You know, pointing out the hideouts. So if you know the hideouts and you know where these people are, and you have at least at that level of monitoring, I mean, it begs the question: what happens? Why are you not there? Why are you not there to take them out? I don't think this can happen anywhere else outside this country. In other places, you don't allow this to just happen, and so it's really worrisome. We're not doing enough tracking or intercepting or monitoring of these things.
Question of intelligence. All right, let's just take one paper from the foreign scene, and that will be the Times. The Times, yes, saying, don't back down. Ukraine is being urged. I'll just read a piece here. It says, Britain is concerned that the United States, France, and Germany will push Ukraine to settle and make significant concessions in peace talks with Russia. What do you make of that urge to Ukraine not to back down and give in easily during the peace talks? Briefly.
Yeah, well, maybe, well, it's a good thing that you encourage, people, not your partners, your allies in a battle to be careful what concessions they are making. But then the bigger picture for everybody is the peace, and that nobody is a winner or a loser when it comes to war. So anything, the rest of the world is watching to see how much we can get from those peace talks. But if you have to do some compromises, there are people who will tell you that, well, maybe that's the way to go if we're just going to have peace at all. Nobody is really interested. Nobody is happy with all that is going. Those pictures, some people have actually just stopped watching because of the really, really terrible pictures and images that we get to see on this war front, especially now. It's one of the most painful kind of situation, development of the modern time. So anything that will lead some kind of peace, some kind of understanding, I think will be encouraged.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.